this presentation just kind of barely scrapes the surface of an introduction to the LiteGait as well as its rationale and features. And so I invite everyone to sign up for a full online in-service and get some CE credit in the process. My name's Kelly. I'm a physical therapist with Mobility Research, and today I'll talk to you about some of the features and benefits of the LiteGait and some of the why or the rationale behind using LiteGait therapy. Again, talk about some of the features and then demonstrate the LiteGait in use through some videos and pictures. From a motor learning standpoint, we know that we want a lot of repetition, a lot of volume of practice, whole task practice if possible, and very task-specific practice. And as you can see here, walking on uneven surfaces is one of those specific tasks that our clients are often presented with. And LiteGait, it allows you to kind of tick all of those boxes and really get the best possible practice from a good motor learning standpoint. There is a just right amount of practice or a just right amount of challenge. And again, LiteGait allows us to accomplish that. If a task is too easy, the clients just hop right over it and there's no challenge. If a task is too hard and they can't accomplish it, they're missing out on the little dopamine hit of success and they'll become discouraged. And so we really want this just right amount of practice that's challenging, but not too challenging. One of the benefits of the LiteGait is the ability to not only adjust how much body weight support we're providing, but also really titrate the available degrees of freedom of movement for the client to really hone in and get that just right amount of practice for our clients. So if you think of the LiteGait as an environment for practice where the client is going to do the things that you would have them do otherwise, but we've just now facilitated this environment with a good upright posture, providing balance support where it's needed, directing support to the areas where it's needed and not supporting where they don't need it. That allows us to normalize the forces, get that patient center of mass right where we want it to be, which decreases energy costs for our clients and really lets us set up our client for a good environment for practice. Because it is a fall-free environment and enables us as clinicians to be hands-free and really get in there and focus on the quality of the movement that patient is doing, really trying to get in there with some of our clients and facilitate some good afferent inputs for what the patient needs to accomplish, and also allows us to support the patient and be more hands-off and kind of let the patient problem solve their way through a movement pattern, as we saw in that first clip with the user walking on uneven surfaces. And so kind of this mixed approach of really tapping into the central pattern control, generator control of walking at the spinal level, and then that really cognitively heavy brain-based force use type of application and mixing the two approaches. This is just kind of, again, scraping the surface of our protocols and our treatment approaches that we might use with LiteGait therapy, which we go much deeper into with trainings once the LiteGait is purchased, but just to give you a little sampling of the different treatment approaches. So at Mobility Research, we call it more better therapy. It's not grammatically correct, but if you think more quantity, better quality, that's what our patients are getting out of LiteGait therapy. Again, it allows us to get in there and reflexively work on some of the movement patterns, as well as a little bit more hands-off forced use type of application. It allows the client to participate in some trial and error and some motor learning that happens from failure and do so in a safe environment. So it really benefits clients of all functional levels and all diagnoses, from the lowest functioning clients just initiating sitting and standing and balance activities to a higher level client who's working on returning to running following an injury or an accident or something of that sort. So I want to talk to you about some of the features that kind of set the LiteGait apart, but I want to just remind you back to that Goldilocks slide where we talked about this just right amount of challenge with our tasks. And so the LiteGait was originally developed to be very rigid support. And then Some features and functions have been added to increase the available degrees of freedom of movement for the client. But really, the benefit of the LiteGait is that we have this full spectrum. So we can have very rigid support that does not allow a lot of excess movement for the lower functioning patient who really needs to hone in on what they're working on, to just free movement, no restrictions. It's just kind of there as a safety net for some of our higher functioning clients. And so we'll talk about some of those features. One of the benefits of the LiteGait is the yoke position. So the ability to position that yoke or that support system right above the user's head. The closer the user is to the support, the more stable the system. So if I'm attached to a support system, say on a ceiling track, and there's 5 feet of line between me and that support, even if that support is stationary, that's still 5 feet worth of sway that's available to me. So for your lower functioning clients, that becomes a much less stable system. With the LiteGait, we can control where the yoke is positioned above the user's head and create more stability. We also create stability and postural control through the overhead straps and how we tighten them. So we can correct for posture. If they lean to the side, we can correct for that and give them some good stability in their trunk. One of the biggest benefits and what separates the LiteGait from most other devices is that I can support or provide support on one side completely independent from the other side. And we do that because there's 2 points of contact. So if I have a client who has right-sided pain, weakness, maybe weight-bearing restrictions, I can unweight that right side and not necessarily unweight their left side if I don't want or need to. So I'm, again, getting as close to normal as possible. Our harness separates the LiteGait from other systems as well, in that the harness provides support around the abdomen and pelvis. We don't want to provide support around the trunk and the ribs. If we're then asking the patient to work really hard, we don't want to limit lung expansion. So by going around the hips and pelvis, it's a big, broad surface area that can tolerate that compression. There is a groin piece. It is not for weight bearing. The patient shouldn't be weight bearing through their groin. It's just to kind of hold everything together. The great thing about our harness is it can be wiped clean with Cavi wipes or Virex or whatever you're using for infection control, as can the whole LiteGait device itself. And then also our harness is designed to be able to go over J tubes and G tubes and colostomy bags and bacillus and pumps and wounds and incisions and all sorts of things, depending on their location. And there are contraindications with the harness, which we go deeper into in training. But for the most part, we can accommodate those different lines and tubes and whatnot. I mentioned how the LiteGait is rigid support, and we can increase that the available degrees of freedom as we see fit. And one of the ways that we do this is through this freedom yoke. So by opening it up, my patient is free to rotate. I can lock it in any position. This lets me practice backwards walking or sideways walking on the treadmill, as you see here. Over ground, it lets me have my patient face outwards to do balance activities, engage with their environment, Therex, ADLs, all sorts of activities facing outwards or away from the LiteGait device itself. Another way in which we increase flexibility or degrees of freedom of movement is through the flexible yoke, which increases the vertical flexibility of the system. So as we walk at faster speeds and our center of mass needs to move vertically, we can allow for that. Or if we're doing different balance activities and we want the patient to have the sensation of falling to hopefully elicit some protective response, we can accomplish that through the flexible yoke. The flex yoke is available in our larger adult models, and then in the pediatric models where the design is different and it can't be included there, we accomplish the same task through the flexi straps. We also have our BiSim scale, which provides measurement, feedback and reporting of how much body weight is being supported by the LiteGait. And it gives us a number for each side and a total because we can support the 2 different sides separately. Again, I can set goals and give feedback to my patient, both auditory and visual feedback. And then I can generate a report that gives me the objective information, and I can save it for my documentation. Our gatekeeper treadmills are designed to be used with the LiteGait device. So it can be rolled, the LiteGait can be rolled right over any of our gatekeeper models. We have 2 full-size models as well as our little mini portable gatekeeper mini model. Our full-size models have removable consoles, so they can be set on the ground next to the user or next to the clinician to control the treadmill speed. And then the mini has a little handheld controller. As you can see here in our S22 model, it has a reverse function, which enables us to practice some downhill walking. So we talked before about that task-specific practice and being able to create these different environments in a safe, controlled way. All of our treadmills start at 0.1 miles per hour, so a super slow walking surface, again, appropriate for your lower functioning clients. And then our full-size treadmills go up to running speeds as well. And in addition, our full-size models have these adjustable handlebars that allow us to go up or down or in or out or take them off depending on our client's needs. Any of our treadmills can be built in, my apologies, I skipped ahead, can be built in with our GaitSense gait analysis software. GaitSense provides measurement, reporting, and feedback on temporal and spatial parameters of gait. So stride length, step length, stance time, swing time, symmetry of walking, weight distribution, speed and cadence of walking. We can see on a screen real time what the patient is doing as they're walking, as well as we can generate reports based on that information and then provide, again, auditory and visual feedback for our clients. So real-time view of what the patient is working on, and then report that we can generate. Based on that report, we can pick through the different parameters that have been measured and figure out what we want to work on with the patient very specifically, and then give them feedback, auditory and visual, in this really clean and simple and easy to understand screen. Our GaitSense gait analysis software also features a balance module. So we can do standing static sway measurement as well as targeting tasks. We can do activities, eyes open, eyes closed, foam surface, firm surface, and make comparisons between their performance day to day or within one session. So this is an example of that task-specific practice. This client is working on downhill walking while my colleague is pretending to be her puppy and pulling to create some balance perturbations in some different conditions. So that one of this client's goal is to be able to walk her dog again. And so again, some very task-specific practice. You can see that free dome yoke is open, the flexible yoke is open, so she's got some bounce as well as the ability to rotate. So the LiteGait is really just there as kind of a safety tool to prevent her from falling and get her more comfortable with the task. Here's an example of a different client who's working on stepping off a curb or stepping down, and you can see she's a bit unsure and need a little bit of assistance from the LiteGait, but she is not being assisted really by the LiteGait, just there as a safety tool. Another products that we have are our Q pads. They're pressure sensitive pads that light up in response to different modes and the pressure that's placed through them. In this instance, the patient is in the LiteGait device and working on anterior and posterior weight shift and moving the lights from side to side or trying to get them in the center. Q pads have 4 different modes, and depending on the mode that's used, where they're placed, how they're placed, you can work on proprioception and balance. You can work on weight bearing feedback as well as different balance tasks and cognitive tasks. Here's an example in a kiddo of utilizing the LiteGait to lift her into a standing position. So again, for a lower functioning patient who doesn't have the ability to stand from a seated position, the LiteGait can do the work to lift them into standing all the way up to 500 pounds, which our biggest model supports. And then they can work on some overground walking, or they can decide to go up onto the treadmill. Again, she doesn't need to have the ability to step up onto the treadmill. She can be lifted up using the support of the LiteGait device. And then just some additional images to show some different applications of LiteGait therapy for balance activities, different positioning, standing ADL, seated on a therapy ball. There's lots of different activities and tasks that one could do with the LiteGait. I welcome you to attend a full in-service for some CE credit to learn more, and reach out to me if you have any questions. Thanks so much for your time.